Welcome to the Real Estate Rush Hour, the only show where you'll learn more in 60 minutes than most investors learn in 6 months of YouTube University. I'm your host, Onaji Barnes, and every week we pack one full hour with the hottest strategies, wildest stories, and smartest experts in real estate from across the country. No fluff, no gurus with rented Lambos, just straight hardcore game delivered fast enough to make your commute feel like a masterclass. If you're trying to build cash flow, level up your portfolio, or just avoid buying a house with a surprise hole in the roof, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, do me a favor, like the video, drop a comment so the algorithm thinks we're smarter than what we really are, and subscribe unless you enjoy missing some money making information. I didn't think so. All right, seatbelts on because this is the real estate rush hour where the smart investors clock in.
Mr. Eugene, what's going on with you, sir?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's it
Hey.
going today?
All right, I don't like talking to myself. RB want to be a co-host and be on the phone. I don't know how that works. I'm joking. I'm joking, but we're definitely gonna ask everybody to go ahead and invite some people to the room for me so we can get this conversation going. I like for people to kind of get in a little bit. And again, we're gonna talk about scaling real estate, a lot of birth strategy, but some other ways as well, right? But the key is, I think the biggest conversation around this, and this is where it comes up, is that at a certain point you're gonna run out of down payments, right? Like that's the biggest issue that most people like. How do you get all these doors, right? And mainly you're gonna run, like I said, you're gonna run out of down payments at some point. I literally was at the reason why I'm running a little late today because I was at one of my students. His mom passed away, and he's trying to get the house rented, and he's almost there. And he's running out of money on the construction side. And I asked him a couple of questions. I'm just saying to myself, "Hey, bro, you actually got money. It's just tied up in this house. You got money, so you gotta, it's important to understand. You don't want to go broke with these houses because they will and they can get you going broke. So anyway, um so we're gonna get into it a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna ask you guys to ping some people in the room, and I know it takes a while to kind of get people going, but we'll go through some things. That we come back, we'll talk about it, right? Um, so I think the number one, let's talk. We're gonna jump right into the number one because this will be recorded, and I will post this on YouTube by tomorrow evening. But number one, it starts with OPM or OPC, other people's capital, other people's money, right? Like that should be the obvious, right? That it's really about using other people's money. And when we talk about other people's money, the first place is likely the bank, right? Like, how do you use the bank? And that's burst strategy. But there's some other ways as well. But for those of you who are familiar with burst strategy, and again, if you're familiar with burst strategy, go ahead and put that in the chat. If Eugene and RB, if y'all want to help me drive a little bit, just and Eugene, you're starting this. How many rentals are you at now? We haven't talked in a
We're
while.
actually at two. We're at two. I
Okay.
started out my first one in 2023. Um, for those who don't know my story, I had been coming to Clubhouse for probably about a year, a little bit under a year, and pretty much I was in a room, and of course, I heard Low speaking, and he made a very comprehensive argument about who was going to bust a move that year and who was just going to, just sit on the sideline and just take action. And it really inspired me because me myself, I had always wanted to be in real estate. I had family and people outside in my friend groups that own real estate. I just never quite knew how to do it. And the simple fact was I took the initiative. Sorry, my son's talking in the background. I just took the initiative to go and just start. So what I did was I went and set up my LLC, and I went and made sure that I had the money in the bank that I needed, and I started looking for properties. I started reaching out, and I started looking for properties. Now, was that easy? No. Did I take the right measure? Definitely not. If I had to start over, I definitely would have did things a little bit differently. But in the 17th day of my process, I actually went and I found my first property. I had looked at quite a few. I found my first property. Um, we wind up just right under 84,000, and we wind up they were asking 88, and we spent 84, and so I acquired that property. Now, fast forward after 4 months of just doing the rehab and getting things done, buy, renovate, borrow. So we went and we got the renovations done, and that was the whole thing in itself. You really got to make sure you have the stomach for it. But when that house got appraised, we had bought it at 84,000. The house appraised for over 200,000. And so you can imagine with that happening, I was ecstatic
You
because I'm
like,
like,
hold on now, let's get this.
I was like, wait, you mean to tell me I bought something for 84,000? I put $35,000 worth of renovations into it. When that house got reappraised and it went to go be refinanced, the house was worth $200,000. I knew at that point real estate was for me. Like, and I've been in love with it ever since.
It don't even feel like
Ever
it's
since.
fair, does it?
No, it really didn't. It really didn't. The funny thing is when people always say, "Well, I ain't got the money for real estate. I don't know how to get into real estate." I'm gonna give you all a secret. Me myself, I've been one of those guys who've been working one, two, three jobs my whole life. It's where I'm from is it's just ingrained in us. The cost of living where I lived at was always so high. Working one job was always not even an idea. So when I got to where I'm at right now, which is in the the rural area of Wisconsin, I continued those same values. And so I worked, what I'm saying, I worked two jobs, I worked a job and a half. And here it is. I'm spending all of this money and I'm like, bro, I have nothing to show for it. I have no assets. I'm just spending money, spending money, spending money, doing all types of dumb shit. And when they actually put that challenge out there, I'm like, bro, I got the money. I actually do have the money to buy real estate. And so what I did was I started taking a large portion of my W two/2 because it was a second income, and that's how we bought real estate. That's how we bought into our first deal. And I was so glad because I didn't realize what it was. Because there's a difference between having money and making money. Because just because you got a little money, that don't mean you making money. Like what I'm saying? Cash flow is a really big thing. And there was so many things that I didn't know, but I'm glad I learned because of course I'm around people like Los, I'm around people like Anaje, I'm around I'm around, what I'm saying, good friends, like what I'm saying, just people that's always been around. RB, I sat in a lot of RB spaces. I just sat in y'all spaces and I really soaked it up. And so after I did that first deal, we wound up refinancing in September of 2023. Oh man, I went out and I bought another deal right away. And we actually closed on December 7th, which is funny because that's actually today. So what I'm saying, things just came full circle. And the second one didn't go quite as easy, but still, every time those properties get appreciated, those properties get done and it's time to go back to the bank or it's time to pull some equity out or something like that, I'm always amazed at how much those properties done appreciated for. Because now, of course, when they rent it out, now you're getting cash flow in. And so now it's like, okay, now what do you want to do with the cash flow? You want to take that cash flow and you want to continue to invest. But here's the kicker. What they don't tell you is, do you want to keep putting down 20% every single time?
No, we do not.
Because if you did it at that, if that was the case, and you let's just say you did 20%, you'll probably do one, maybe two houses a year, maybe, and that's if everything went well and you didn't have hiccups. Like let's just say you maybe didn't get rent on time this month, or maybe your utility bills went up, or maybe your insurance kicked up, which I swear all of our insurance rose. Am I wrong or right, Anaje?
No,
RB?
everybody's getting hit by insurance and taxes right now.
Everybody's getting hit by insurance. So the thing is, it's like, how do you circumvent that? Well, one, if you're going hard money, depending on how many deals you've done over the last 24 to 36 months, and you consistently been working that plan, now you start to go down a little bit. They're not asking for 20% down. Maybe they're asking for 10. Maybe they're asking for 15. Or if you partner, I'm on Clubhouse, guys. If you partnered with somebody that's in your sphere of competence, maybe they've done a few deals. So let's just say they did maybe 5 deals this year, and you may just be on your first deal. Well, you bring them onto the deal. Now that's 6 deals. So now you qualify to put that 10% down. But I'm not going to take over the stage. I'm going to go ahead and let Anante do this. But I just wanted to just let you know those are the possibilities
Well,
when
Eugene,
you're doing the growth strategy.
I first of all, I appreciate you sharing your story because I mean I remember you being on Clubhouse. I remember you being not on the stage and just listening for a couple years. So for me, it's dope that you took action and you gone about it. And one thing I always like to tell people: look, the average landlord in America is actually a small landlord, and they only have 1.7 houses, right? So Eugene, you're ahead of the curve already. And ultimately, guys, you ain't got to buy a whole 20 houses in a year. Matter of fact, I just saw somebody with a YouTube page so talking about how she bought 22 houses in 2 or 3 years and she regrets buying them. Yeah, because they're likely not good deals. If you buy a gang of single families in 1 year, I can assure you it's going to be very difficult to for all of those single deals to be deals, right? The reason why people get into multifamily and things of that nature is because it's easier to find one deal and you can find one deal on a bunch of units, right? Um, but I appreciate you sharing that story. Uh, when we talk about scaling, the Burr is kind of like one of the easier, I won't say easier, but that's kind of like the quintessential way of kind of getting in, right? Finding that hitting a gem on that first deal, hitting a I won't say a home run, but hitting hit a triple or something, hit a double or triple, and getting some significant equity that you can roll that over. I mean, that's literally how I kind of got into my way of getting in. And then that's a simple way. But I'm also a fan of people understanding skill sets, understanding their skill sets. And you might be a people person. People might believe in you. And when they believe in you, they're willing to give you money. And Casey's on the phone, but I'll definitely pass the mic to Amy and KZ next. When you really think about other people's money and other people's capital, a lot of times we immediately think about the bank, but it ain't always the bank. And when you're doing big deals, I mean, and big money is big money to everybody. It's always relative. Raising capital, and bringing in partners, equity partners, raising money. That's a real thing. And I'm gonna just pass the mic to Amy. Introduce yourself and kind of maybe tell how you kind of got started scaling, which I'm assuming might be a little bit different than some of us.
Hey, Anaje. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Amy Palvido. I'm a longtime real estate investor. I've been investing in real estate since 2008. Before that, I had a construction company where I was doing retail and then started doing multifamily construction. And when I started investing in real estate, so some single family, but yeah, I was in construction, got into real estate, and then quickly got into the private equity side of the house, where I was putting deals together, raising capital for deals so that I could go buy larger assets. So I started originally in single family, bought a bunch of single family investments. I think it was just the right time. It was 2008, 9, 10. Got
Man, there was some
deals.
cheap deals. Now
Man, oh
there was
my
some
God,
cheap deals. Now,
there was
Amy,
some,
I'm gonna
yeah,
remind you, this is a teaching space. So when you talk about raising capital and raising funds, people don't really think about that with single family. That's
yeah.
not. So maybe just dive into that a little bit for somebody that's down here that's listening, and just so they can make it real for
Yeah, so you can do it a lot of different ways. I saw some friends do it where they would somebody might have had great credit. So therefore they could go get the loan, but they didn't necessarily have the equity piece, like the money piece. So people would partner up that way, right? Where I might have money because I'm self-employed and I've got access to cash, but I'm self-employed, so me getting a loan is not the easiest thing in the world, right? But maybe you have a W-2 and you got great credit, so you can get it. So people would partner up that way and they would just split the profits on the deal. I've seen lots of people do that. So on a single family side, that's a great way to do it. Especially it depends on how much the equity need is, but on when you're trying to buy larger deals, like say a 20 unit or even if it's a 12 unit, depending on the area, right? You can be California and a 12 unit is really expensive. You would want to kind of put what we call a syndication together and get people to come in for 50,000, 100,000, and put the equity piece together and kind of syndicate a deal. So you have the ability to scale, but you just do it through partnerships. But yeah, it's an interesting way to do it. I will say if I had gone and done investing all on my own, just on my credit and my net worth and those kinds of things, I would have gone really, really slow. But by partnering with people, I was able to scale so much faster and make more money faster by doing these partnerships and going by larger assets. And yes, while my ownership percentage was less, it was still more money than I would have made had I just stuck doing single family homes. So, yeah.
and by you putting the deal together, your ownership might be less, but you're still what we call the GP of the principal
Yeah.
running the show.
Yeah, yeah, you are. So you're a GP and you get favorable treatment when the profits split up and yeah, I mean and you get paid along the way to manage the asset for sure. Yeah, it becomes a full-time job. So it's not sometimes you can do it as a part-time job on the side, but really would you want to invest your money with somebody who's treating it like a part-time job? Probably not. So you want to make sure it's a full-time one for you, right? So when you get into that, so when you start scaling that way, you really become kind of a full-time sponsor person, and your job being a real estate investor for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and we're gonna go to my man Casey in a little bit and RB in a second, but I want to definitely stay on this idea because when people hear raising capital and syndications and all that, I think like on the last 5 to 8 years, it's really been a multi-family conversation of larger deals. But like I said, when you were coming up, when I was coming up, I mean, people just got together, and
Yeah.
and in my community, we talk about, I talk about a lot about people getting accountability partners. Find some people that you can kind of just connect with in your city that hey, did you know such and such was having a real estate event? You feel like going with me? Right. And just literally being simple like that and intentional. And you know, you just start rolling with somebody, right? And last night we
Yeah.
had our conference call, and I brought in one of my friends who I literally met her at a meetup, you know, and I met her at a meetup, and we just clicked, and me, her, and two other people just clicked, and we just started rolling together. And when you know, when you find some people, and then sooner or later you're like, well, y'all want to do a deal together? You know, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
have to be that complicated, guys. And I think the biggest thing that you want to do is just make sure you have your paperwork together. That's the
Yeah.
key.
For sure. I think how we started back in the day in Najee, there was a group of us, maybe about 8 or 10 or so, and we just met once a month. And this is how we did it. None of us owned any multifamily. We had some single family investments, but we'd never owned any multifamily. You know what we did? We started underwriting deals from LoopNet. And one person that month would be the guinea pig, and they would underwrite the deal, and then we would just beat the bast them, the beat the crap out of them on their underwriting. Right. So that's how we learned. It was a very Socratic method. Somebody got up and said, okay, this is my underwriting. What do you think? And we'd like, well, what do you think about this? And do you think about that? And we learned so much by doing that. And no joke, I think out of that group, and we did that for maybe a year, like a good year. And then it turned into not necessarily underwriting per se, but we would just get together. And then
Hold on. How many of those you think y'all did?
we
A
did
lot.
well, like yeah, like 2 years worth. And I will say every person in that room became a sponsor. They all did. And we all invested in each other's deals. We joint ventured on some deals. But yeah, but it was great. It was the best education you could get because you're learning from, we're all learning and doing different things, but it was fun. And I missed that group actually. We did vacations together after a while. We became great friends. So it was awesome.
Well, I'm not. Joe and Sharon are in the group, and they were on the call last night, and we literally talked about that right there, about
Yeah.
underwriting a ton of deals, right?
Yeah.
Just literally get your calculators, get your spreadsheets, and just practice, right? Lots
Yeah.
of practice. And what I love about what you said about your group was that y'all went in and ate each other up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and she also said that they're still friends, so that means that no one was sensitive about it, right?
No, no. It was more of it was more of like, okay, that's cool, but you were testing each other's assumptions because at the end of the day, in underwriting, it's all about the assumptions. It's not the math,
Because you can make
y'all.
the math
It's
however
the
you want to do. Look, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's the assumptions you're using behind it. So we would test each other's assumptions, and then somebody would learn something, and they'd bring it to the group, and like, well, what did you think about this? Oh, by the way, did you not know insurance is doing this now, or the property taxes have like they're adjusting for property taxes now? I mean, it was great. I miss that group. I really do. That group was awesome for sure.
But the key is having some people to roll with, y'all, and
Yeah.
that'll challenge you. Because look, here's the problem with your friends and family. They love you. They're gonna tell you that your art project is amazing when it looks like crap. You know, and like they're hardwired to tell you that your chicken scratch is a Picasso. It ain't. Right?
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
people out here that's gonna tell you the hard truth, but in love. You know what I'm saying? Like or in money. And sometimes money is a great motivator, right? Because ain't nobody trying to lose it. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really really cool thing. And you know, a lot of us who've been successful, I think they have very similar stories. Like I said, last night I had my homegirl in, and she's been to all of my deals. She is like, and not she hasn't necessarily invested in them, but she has been there. Like before I close, hey, can you walk this? What are the problems that you have? Right, the same thing. Right, what is the issue with this? Right, I think that's just super important because when we talk about scaling, I think people necessarily they think, well, how do I get more doors? How do I get more money? It's also about people and resources. You know, you can't get up to multifamily using the same guys or the same handyman. The same handyman that you had on your single family is likely can't be the construction guy on your multifamily, right? Like you have to
No.
scale your team along the way. Let's see if Miss RB is here if she want to introduce herself. And guys, hey, feel free to come up. It's a teaching session, but if you got questions around scaling, for sure, we're here. So, couple things. Want to continue to talk about. You got the friend route, right? And you just got the piece of just connecting. At what point, Amy, did you say to yourself, okay, I can attract equity partners that maybe is not in my immediate friend group? How did it get to a point where one, you felt comfortable taking other people's money, but maybe other people obviously felt comfortable giving you money? Where do you think that unlock was? I'm assuming success, but at what point,
Yeah.
yeah, did that come together?
It's part success. You build a track record, right? There are a lot of those groups like yours, right? You have a wealth mastermind academy. There's several different groups that get together, investment clubs, I would call them, um where they kind of get together, and so people are you're in a room with a bunch of people who want to invest money. Right, it's the easiest way to raise capital when you're around a bunch of other investors. But in order to convince them to give you money, it's all about your track record and your experience. And so you'll do, and everybody does, like during a day, you'll do lots of really cool things and you won't remember that you did them. But it's really key if you're trying to raise capital from somebody else that you kind of remember all the cool things you do, because it just gives you credibility. So, if you're doing, like, I don't know, two or three flips a month on a single family basis, and you want to kind of scale that up, you just, write down all your construction experience, talk through all the crazy things that you had to do on this one property, because I know you forgot that there was cast iron there and you had to figure out that problem. Like, I mean, the trials and tribulations are what make you a seasoned investor, because they're all going to go through them. You're all going to have them. And so you just got to remember those, because those stories kind of really tell yourself, and it becomes a business, right? If you're going to go raise capital from somebody else, you definitely have to, it becomes a business. You're now a private equity person, and you've got to learn the tricks of the trade of how to go raise capital. You can do it joint ventures too. I mean, it doesn't always have to be through syndications, but to get someone to partner with you, it's just the same thing. Ask yourself, what would make you want to give money to someone else as an investment? What would be your criteria? What is that? And it's likely 80%, 90% the same criteria as somebody else. So I'm not going to give money to somebody who I don't think they know what the hell they're doing, have no clear path or business plan, just those kinds of things. So if you show up and going, hey, it's me, give me 100 grand, they're going to go, whatever. Like, so it's the same things. You just have to talk through it, right?
Yeah, and
So,
I remember this is probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I've got a frat brother that works on Wall Street and super successful, and he's talking to me like, OJ, you never raised capital. I'm like, no. And I was like, I don't know, blah blah. I don't know how I feel about that. And he said something very very simple. He said, you know how to make money in real estate? I said, yeah. He said, everyone wants to make money in life, right? And he also said something very simple. He said, look, all you got to do is take a small deal and make a couple people some money one time. Eh,
exactly.
eh, Just one time.
Yeah,
You-
I know. Yeah. And they become your best ambassadors. They're your marketing engine. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. You make a few
Exactly.
people some money one time, they going to love you and they're going to give you some more money to make them some more money. And they may tell somebody. Real
Yeah.
simple.
Business who they know, like, and trust. If they know you and they like you and they trust you, they would 9 times out of 10 they will invest with you. But
Yeah.
if you are a a crappy person and people don't like you and they don't trust you as far as they can throw you, then you may have a problem. You definitely may have a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely so that whole game of raising capital. I mean, I do it now. Now I'm back into the real estate game, so I'm actively raising capital, and there's a lot to it. I mean, you have to learn personalities, depending on how much capital you're trying to raise, and what that looks like, and all of the All of it. You have to understand if it's a joint venture, that's the easiest one for people to understand. Is oh no, say so it's Anaja and Eugene and I, we're gonna work together on a deal. As a joint venture, the very simple term is we each have to have a job. We have to consider ourselves active investors. So either I'm doing the accounting, Anaja is doing the property management, Eugene is doing something like we all have active roles in the deal. That's a joint venture, right? And but if somebody gives you their money and they have no active role in the deal, they're considered a passive investor. Therefore, it is really truly a syndication, and you should follow all the syndication rules. Now, do people do that? No. There's a lot of people give money to people to do deals, and they don't have any active investment, active role in the deal. But you should.
And I want to add on to that. I don't want to cut you off, but I think this part is important because it's important to have good communication up front about what those roles are before you take money or give money.
Yep, that is very true. And exactly. And then you have a good operating agreement. If it's not papered, it's vapor. Like I don't care what they tell you. You got to paper it up right and do all these things. And it's just one of those things. But yes, joint venture operating agreements look very different than syndication operating agreements. You would have in joint venture ones, everybody has equal voting rights, and you have all these different things. And in an operating agreement with a syndication, there's limited voting rights for
Nobody
passive
asked. Shut the
investors.
fuck up.
I don't know who that was. Okay.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
My bad, y'all.
Seriously.
My bad.
No, it's okay. So anyway, but yeah, so it's those kinds of things just have to understand when you're getting into partnerships with people of what that looks like. That's all.
In the chat, I think is a great question. She talked about can we do owner financing to scale and what are the things to be careful of? I think this is a fantastic question because people ask about owner financing. There's people, gurus that talk about, oh, just do seller financing and have the seller do this, whatever. Now, Amy, you've been around a while.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, feel free to jump in. I like to tell people that, you know, seller financing, owner financing is just a type of financing. It doesn't make it any more special than any other type of financing because it's all about terms and where you at. So if and Casey here, feel free to jump in or Amy jump in. For the most
Yeah.
part, when people refer to owner seller finance, what are they talking about?
Well, they just it's like somebody doesn't have the ability to go get a loan, right? So and the seller's willing to give the loan, right? So they're going to be the bank. Yeah, that is true. If you're not able to scale because I don't know, hit your limit on your debt to income ratio and therefore you can't go get another loan, the seller will do it for you. But you just got to understand that one trade-off, there's always another. And typically in seller finance deals, you're putting a lot down. You're not like, it's not a hard money loan where you can come in with like less than 10%, right? If on seller finance deals, you're usually putting 20 or 30% more down. And so as long as you got the cash, you're cool. And typically on seller finance deals, those terms are more favorable to the seller. Like there's a reason why they're doing it. And so therefore the interest rates are usually higher. But it's just a type of loan for sure. I don't
I
know.
just want
I
to
don't
jump
know
in there
how I
for a
help
second,
you
Amy.
scale. Yeah, go for
I,
it.
I just want to jump in there for a second. Okay, so dealing with that type of financing, you get what you negotiate. Definitely because everyone sees the type of economy that we're in right now. Now, you get a buyer or you get a seller, and that place has been on the market, let's just say 150, 200 days. That's like what, 6 months, 7 months, and they've been trying to sell this thing. And it's a single family house. They don't even really want the house. They need to get rid of the house because they got something else going on somewhere else. The thing is, you have to actually have a come to Jesus moment and have that conversation. Hey, what can we do on this house? What type of deal that can you make? And put together, if you got a question, put together a package. If it's for you and your family, put together a presentation package. Hey, this is the type of house we're looking for. Maybe you got a small child. Maybe it's you, the wife, and the small child. Hey, we're looking for a two-bedroom or three-bedroom, two-bathroom house. This would be perfect for us. Hey, I would be open to going to the bank, but because of my debt to income ratio right now, I can't go to the bank. So this is something I could present to you. This is an option. Can we do 10% down? Can we do 5% down? You don't know what you can get unless you ask the question. Because let's just say you ask for 10% down and they counter back at 15. Are you gonna walk away from the deal just because it's 15? Hell no. I'm gonna still buy that deal because guess what? I'm able to do that deal and I don't have to go through the bank. The whole thing is somebody's going to be the bank at some point. It's either you're going to be the bank, you're going to an actual bank, the private person is the bank, it might be a private corporation that is the bank. Somebody is going to be the damn bank. And the thing is, you don't get what you don't ask for. You have to negotiate certain things. Have the conversation. No, it's not going to be a one or two conversation thing, but that's where you build up that rapport. Because, like I said, people do business who they know, like, and trust,
And
and you
I
might be
want
able to
to,
get better terms.
yeah, I want to just touch on the red flags with seller financing sometimes. I think it's important on like one, whoever write the contract controls the situation. That's number one. Two, who's approaching who in this? Are you approaching them around seller and offering terms and things of that nature? If you are, there's a good chance you might end up controlling the situation. Or did you see something that was advertised with seller financing and thought like, oh my God, this seller finance is good? If that's the case, that's a red flag sometimes. And what I've seen is I know whole companies that they have real estate operations and they only offer seller financing because it can be advantageous for them. They're looking for down payments and they're just going to treat you like a tenant, a renter. And they're going to get you for 10 grand, 15 grand on a down payment. And they're going to put terms in here that frankly you can't compete with. They may charge you, your note might be market rate rent, and essentially you're used to paying rent, so you thinking like, hey, this is good terms, and you didn't even look at the interest rate, and the interest rate is actually higher than what you thought, or the higher than what is on average, and you thinking you got a good deal and you not. And then the other piece to it is I've seen this a lot, and you're just talking about red flags right now. Number one, be careful, like really negotiate the rate that they're charging you. That's big. Number two, how are the taxes and the insurance escrowed or rolled into that situation? I know a house. I know a house very, very specifically. This house has gone through at least three seller owner finance situations to the point where I know the underlying owner is just really stealing people's down payment. And they just getting big ass down payments every couple of years. And they're putting the note at a place that will be comparable of rent. But the quote unquote person that's the owner or the new owner that's buying the loan or doing the loan, they also have to pay insurance and taxes outside of that quote unquote mortgage payment. Well, that's a big problem, right? Especially in Texas, because our taxes are significant. Tax and insurance could be 30, 40% of your bill. So you got this big tax bill at the end of the year, but you've been paying the comparable amount to rent just to say that you quote unquote own the property. So for me, with seller finance and owner finance, it can be quite dangerous. There are people that that's just what they do. They don't even offer rent. I know large owners of real estate that don't even do quote unquote leasing and rent. They only offer seller finance. That's their strategy because they would say, "Hey, I'm stupid because guess what? One, that person, Amy's the owner. I'm not the owner, so Amy don't get to call me about no repairs. Don't call me about no repairs. Don't call me about nothing broken because you are the owner. Two, you're responsible for those taxes and insurance. If you don't pay the taxes and insurance, I get to foreclose on your ass, right? Foreclosures in my state maybe a little bit longer and has some potential hiccups versus evictions, but different process, but could be quite similar as far as being able to get the property back. And then the other piece is this ain't no deposit. This is a down payment. This mine. This my money. Whatever you paid to get into this seller financing situation is mine. It's gone. Once you hand me that over, it's gone. So it can be used as a way, like I said, I've had a lot of students that try to argue me down about seller finances, and I'm like, man, I don't know who you buying this from. Oh, I'm buying this from this old dude, and he's owned this property for years. I said, that's a red flag. You think as a newbie that you smarter than this old school player? You not. You not. You're not smarter than somebody who's been in the game 30 years.
That's very true. The other thing too is that they're not professional banks. So when you like need to get a payoff statement or you want to understand, I mean, like you're not working with somebody who,
With
when you
rules.
actually have to get some sort, like, yeah, exactly. When you actually, they want to service the loan, like eventually you want to get out of that. You don't want to stay in seller finance forever. Maybe you do. Who knows? Maybe they gave it to you at a song and you want to do it, and that's totally fine. But there's like you're paying them interest. They should give you a mortgage interest statement at the end of the year, right? They're not going to give you that. So, it's just
So how you
interesting.
writing this off on your taxes? How you getting the benefit?
Exactly. Exactly. So you have to understand they're not professional service people. And so when you do some of that, you have to worry about that. But it is, I would say, seller finance as a bridge sometimes, if it's you're in a tricky situation and the property sucks, you can't get it financed, but it's a good deal. I bought a 40 unit that way. I couldn't get it underwritten by a loan because it had foundation problems and roof problems, but it was a good asset in a great location. So the seller was willing to finance it for me for a year. And then that way I could get in, make the repairs, and then get it flipped into like a Fannie Mae loan.
So
And so
you
I
were
did
using that as like a hard money situation, essentially.
basically, yeah, basically.
Temporary debt.
Temporary debt, like bridge, yeah, bridge debt. And then that's the only way I've done a seller finance. I haven't done it any other way. So because it just, for me, even the hard money lenders are a little more professional than the seller finance people. At least they'll send you a mortgage interest statement. You know, like they say, pretend to be a bank. So anyway.
Yeah, and again, I know people are teaching the strategy out there. Well, Joe, I think the key is you need to just understand terms, right? So she said, is it better to avoid seller finance deal where you pay the taxes and insurance? I mean, technically you're owner, so you're responsible for it, right? The question is, so here's my actual recommendation if you're doing a seller or owner financing situation. And this when Amy and I got started, this really wasn't around, but it's around now because I've been asking around people, some of my friends who do this a lot. There are third party companies that will do the servicing for you where you are doing a seller finance, owner finance situation, but instead of paying Amy, I'm paying Eugene's company. Eugene has a company that's a servicing company. It's a loan servicing company, and they doing all the math, and they're doing all of the mortgage statements. They're making sure the taxes and insurance are being paid on time. I think in 2025, 2026, that's the type of way that you really want to do it. If you are doing it, get some third party company that can kind of handle this that are not affiliated with either party. I think that's probably the best way to do it. It going forward, and I only know about it because I got friends that are kind of in this space, and that's what they're doing. And that way, things are kind of just straight and narrow. Because that situation about that house I just told you, guess why? Guess why that house has changed hands so many times? Because the taxes wasn't getting paid. Period. And someone who is a renter that you have sold on dreams of being a homeowner, it's almost predatory to set them up for failure. You kind of, it's almost predatory. So some of these guys offering seller financing, I would actually argue that some of these people out here are quite predatory. Oh, we got my man Ellis in the building. I know he know a little something about this. He gonna switch this up a little bit. Ellis, we're talking about ways to scale and we were somebody asked about seller owner financing pitfalls and ways to go about it. I feel like this is your lane a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of this area. So what were the where'd you leave off on the discussion?
Well, we were talking about the positive, sometimes positive, sometimes I've seen. For me, I refer to it. Sometimes it can be quite predatory on the seller themselves. They could be doing this as a like that's just part of their business, right? Model, knowing that they're just going to collect big down payments and then they'll eventually foreclose or whatever. But
Yeah, if you're going to do it where you're hoping that the buyer fails, I would say I don't want anything to do with you. I think I think oh my God, it's one of the oldest scams in the book, right? Is you actually, like you said, it becomes predatory. But if you look at it where you're actually trying to solve a problem where everybody can win, there are a lot of very good buyers out there that don't fit into the traditional banking template, right? Business owners, for example, right? They don't have W-2 income. I have some really great tenants that make a really good amount of money. They're handymen, or they do windows, they do roofs, but it's very hard for them to get a loan. Why? Because they don't fit into the Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase template. But if somebody said, "Hey, I have a house and I'm willing to look at the big picture of the overall picture of your situation, so I could sell my house," that I know if I allow that, I could have more of a supply of buyers if I were to have sensible guidelines where I want to see that you have income. It may not be from a W-2, but it could be, hey, look at all his bank deposits. Or I've known this guy as a tenant in my building for the last 15 years and he's never missed a month of rent. That speaks very highly to me versus, oh, here's the guy's FICO and blah blah blah, right? So if you can have that additional pool of buyers for your property, you have a very valuable commodity for somebody that's looking to stop paying rent to buy housing. So you don't have to be predatory. You can make this work, and you will do just fine. I've known plenty of people that have done it right, where they are very particular about who they extend terms of sale to, but
now,
it helps
Ellis,
them.
I want you to flip this around a little bit because the
Okay.
question really is about, somebody was asking. The Tyler Room today, y'all, just a quick reset. We're talking about how to scale your portfolio. So the question really came up from a buying perspective, like what should they look at and I want to split over because we talked about a few negatives, and I want to use you because I got you here, Ellis.
Yeah.
Is that how can this be a valuable tool in your toolbox when you're talking about scaling yourself, right? What are some, I know you got some complicated ways, but what are some for a newbie, how should they kind of go about this and think about this from a scaling, because the obvious is hey, we're gonna run out of some of these down payments sometimes, right? So
So
how,
so this is a way to scale to acquire more with seller financing, or is
yes,
a way?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
We coming at it two different ways. I'm flipping it
Yeah.
now and
Okay.
asking you like, okay, how do we scale as a buyer with it?
Okay, as a buyer, have you ever run into a situation where there's a house out there that doesn't qualify for traditional financing and it only qualifies for like hard money? But if you use hard money, you can't make it pencil. How many times have you run into a property
A
like that?
lot.
Exactly. So what if you could provide a solution? It's not going to work for everyone because not everyone is willing to take seller financing, right? But what if you found a situation where it made sense for them to take seller financing because they have a house that's not selling, or they have a house that is very difficult to sell for whatever reason, because
Or
most
financeable.
yeah, because it's not financeable, right? Once you take out bank financing, FHA financing, VA financing, you're left with very few buyers, right? Because if you don't
But
have that,
majority of the
they're the
buyers
big
in
guys on the
America are
block.
buying with FHA, y'all. That's just a
Right, right. So, if I, as a skilled acquisition manager, say, "Hey, I have a way to solve this guy's problem. He's got a house," or many times I've done this with I did this with a landlord in Texas many years ago. He had like 8, 9 houses what we bought from him at one time, and he didn't. I mean, could you imagine trying to list all those houses with tenants at one time? right? He was getting
Actually,
older,
yes.
right? Right. And, yeah, yeah, we don't want to get into how hard that is if you're on the other side of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to sell my property when I have tenants in it because it's just so much harder to deal with, and you're not going to get as much, right? Because you can't fix it up with a tenant in there, or it's much harder to do it. So this guy was like, "Well, I've got a problem. I got these 8 houses. I'm getting older. My family doesn't want to manage it, so and I need the money for whatever."
And you're not
So
trying to kick out the tenants because that's the cash flow
yeah,
for
that's
right
the
now.
cash flow, right? So one of the fears a landlord has is, okay, I'm going to sell my property, I got to kick the tenant out, and then people say, okay, I'll put it in escrow, but then they go, oh, I don't want to buy it. What, I don't like the inspection report, and now you've got this empty house for like 6 months, and you're bleeding, right? So there's a lot of motivation for some people to sell on seller financing. So I went to him and I said, well, instead of you kicking your tenants out, I'll take the tenants as they are, but in exchange for that, I'll take everything as is, but in exchange for that, I want you to extend me terms where I get to pay you over time instead of having to come up with a bunch of cash right now.
And
And
part
now,
of those terms,
That's
like what Amy
clutch.
was alluding to, could be just bridging, right? Like, hey, okay, I can do this, and let me do it for 2 or 3 years, and then I can refinance these out.
yeah, see the beauty of this, Anaji, and what I try to steer beginners away is he'll say, well, what's the typical? What's the average? There is no typical, there's no average. Whatever you could agree to solve each other's problem, each other's goals, right? Does it have to be a year? Yeah, it could if it solves their problem. Can you have somebody carry back something for 20 years? Yeah. 30? Yeah. Ask them if it works for them, it works for them. So you can't say what's typical, but what happens here is now you're out of the box. You've run out of down payment money by going to your typical bank, right? That says, oh, if you're a non-owner occupied, you got to put 20% down, right? You can wheel and deal and create whatever terms you need to in order to make the deal happen, because you have two parties that have a meeting of the mind. What's a contract? Well, it's a meeting of the mind, right? Offer acceptance and a meeting of the mind, right? So that's how you can grow your portfolio on the acquisition side.
Ooh, I like that. I'm about to steal that quote. A contract is a meeting of the minds. I like that. And again, with the contract, I always remind people, whoever is offering it, the contract, whoever's writing the contract, they're starting the negotiation. They're starting
Yep.
the
Yep.
meeting of the mind. The conversation is starting where I put it. And so I'm a big fan of understanding contracts in real estate, understanding language, right? You ain't got to be a lawyer, but learn how to, we do need to know how to read, right?
Right.
And comprehend what's in it. And it's important because whoever is leading that conversation, whoever's making that offer, right? Whoever we're having a meeting of the mind from this basis of a contract that I put together, I think you're naturally going to have a leverage point.
Yeah.
You're-
Yeah. An important thing, if you're putting on the acquisition hat, is not to think about why would somebody take owner finance from you, because I think that's the big mistake that a lot of newbies have, is they go and they start going, oh, I went to this creative financing seminar, now I'm going to fire off 100 creative finance offers and see which one sticks. That, I think, is the worst way to approach it. You have to find a situation where the creative financing actually solves the problem. It actually is a benefit that is undeniable. And it's funny because I was just on a Zoom call where I was presenting a creative finance situation where I said, yeah, I bought this $600,000 property for no money down, $2,000 a month for 200 months with a balloon. After the 201st month, I pay whatever the balance is left. And they're like, why in the world would they accept that? I said, why in the world would I buy that house otherwise? Because that house was abandoned. It had all kinds of problems and I couldn't get a loan on it. That would make sense. If I was going to
So
pay
who else were they
12%,
going to sell it to?
right, right. So there was one person that was competing with me on the house, and they offered, I think, like 327 cash, and I offered her $618,000 or 624 on terms.
Probably low interest rate, right?
Zero's pretty low.
Of
Yeah,
course. There you
yeah,
stop.
yeah,
And
yeah.
He said
psychologically,
zero is pretty low.
and the beauty of that is the seller got their number, right?
They got their number. They got their monthly payment. It was secured by that house,
And you
right?
got the payment that you needed.
And I got the payment that I needed. I also negotiated no payments until I rehabbed it and had it rented.
Once again,
So
you don't get what you ask for, you get what you negotiate.
yeah,
You
and,
get
and that
what
was
you
just like, well,
negotiate.
I said, how is it fair for me to make payments when I'm fixing up the mess?
Your mess that you caused, Mr. Seller.
Yeah, and I turned it around. I said, I want you to have the best security possible, and the way to make sure that I make payments to you on time is to make sure this thing is fixed first, so I can get the very best tenant. I don't want to have to put in a crummy tenant in a house that has so many deferred maintenance. That makes sense, doesn't it? I can get the better tenant where you're going to get interrupted payments for the next 200 months if you allow me, enough time to fix this and make this thing shine.
And the funny thing is, I like that because if you look at some of those older people who've been around the game, like I had a chance to actually go through Rob Legrand's videos, and I realized he did the same thing. He don't go to banks. He does not go to banks. What he does is he finds a particular property and he negotiates terms. Then he turns around and he negotiates terms with a seller and he make the money in the middle. Like that is a great strategy. He never has to go to a bank. He never has to worry about it being on his credit.
Yeah,
And he
I just
really
spent 2 days in
negotiates
Florida
everything.
learning about different ways to utilize exactly the concept you're talking about. It's about finding multiple people with multiple needs and desires to solve everybody's problem. And some of the stuff that you can, once you have these tools, exactly what you were talking about, Eugene, is that you don't have to go to a bank anymore.
Guys, as someone that sits on the other side, I get 5 calls a day from somebody that went to some Trump University real estate class, or sorry, I shouldn't have said Trump, some stupid real estate class.
Right.
They outsource calls to China or India
You already
they,
know where they're going, right? They're shotgunning without even finding out.
yeah, they're just trying to get an option on the house,
Right.
trying to play you.
Yep.
I know that it works some, but there's so many people that are out there trying to lowball an offer.
Yep.
It's not as easy as some of these people are making it.
It's
Um,
it's the right tool with
there,
the wrong person using it.
there you go.
Yeah, it should be just one of your tools. Like, I mean, you're going to apply different financing scenarios depending on the situation. This is just one tool in your tool belt, right? And then, yeah, like Ella says, I mean, if it solves a problem, it solves a problem. That's why I had to buy my 40 unit that way. It's because I could not get it financed and they really wanted to sell. The owner had congestive heart failure and they're like, we
Right?
have to sell.
Because that's
And
real
so,
life, right, Amy? It's not
yeah.
about underwriting. It's about this is real life. Somebody needs something solved, and it's up
Yeah.
to you to come up with a solution.
Yeah. So we chose seller financing. I mean, I could not get any financing people and it was still good. We had to spend time fixing it. So it was that kind of a scenario. And then we got out of it in a year and it was fine. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, put in the chat, say, hey, is there a website or somewhere I can go to learn about terms and seller financing? I think the point, though, is really what Amy talked about. This is about a tools in a toolbox. Okay. If we're trying to repair something, or we're trying to accomplish a goal, we really just want as many tools as possible. Now, I use the example. A hammer and a nail gun are two different things, right? A hammer and a screwdriver, a hammer and a drill. These are two different things, right? And for certain repairs, you absolutely need a drill for it. And some things you need a hammer for, right? And I think that is the point. You want to focus on financing and understanding financing, not seller financing, not FHA, right? Not DSCR loans. You just want to understand financing, because the more you understanding the term, the total package of financing, then all you're really doing is increasing your toolbox. Okay, well, if you only know FHA, FHA has very strict rules around the quality, or I want to say the condition of the property. If you got a piece of carpet pulled up, FHA ain't gonna finance it. A house could be 99% done and it's missing a toilet that costs $100 from Home Depot. They will not finance it, right? So does that mean we can't buy this house? Well, for you, yes, because that's all you know, right? But the game is really understanding multiple ways to finance something so you can get to the promised land, and the promised land is you scaling and acquiring more doors. So um couple things I want. Hey Stan, how you doing? Jumping on stage, why don't you introduce yourself for us, because it's either been a while or don't know you, and I love to know new people. So how you doing, man?
Hey, Eugene. I don't think I've, or I'm sure I haven't been in your room before because I just joined your Wealth Masterminds. Um, I have a few properties that I bought. I actually did do a financing setup similar to what you guys, where the seller provided financing a long time ago. So I'm familiar with that. I think the landscape has changed, and I compliment. I forget. I wasn't paying attention who was talking to, but the person that bought a 40 complex with seller financing, that makes sense. Clearly, one-off houses are a little bit different than a 40 unit, but congratulations on your guys' stuff. My primary focus is assets different than real estate, but I I'm always looking at real estate as well. Thanks. Bye.
Cool. Well, welcome to the conversation, my man, entrepreneur. What's going on with you, guys? This is the Wealth Masterminds Academy. Um, Today is the real estate rush hour. We're going to go a little bit longer just because I know people are still getting used to us getting back on Clubhouse and hosting rooms and things of that nature. Um, Join the community up top. This is our school community. It's easy to join, easy to jump in. This way, we kind of it's available. The point is to have availability of resources outside of one time a week. I got a whole lot of tools and just gadgets and contracts and all kinds of cool things that I've had over the years. You can join that. We also have a if you're a newbie, we have an again, today we're talking about scaling, right? So we talked about acquisition strategies. We talked a lot about seller financing, guys. The game is having lots of things in your toolbox, lots of ways to purchase property, right? Lots of ways to purchase property. So again, just go through a couple things. Last a couple of weeks ago, we talked about DSCR loans, hard money loans. Those are ways to buy property, right? Raising capital. We talked a lot about that earlier. But one thing I also want to just kind of is another way to scale. Multiply.
Right.
So just multiplying yourself. This quick thing. If we want to touch on what are some ways we can multiply ourselves as a way of scaling?
So I would say, obviously, if you want to be a real estate investor and you're trying to build your property count or your obviously your base, your portfolio, you treat it like a business, right? So you're gonna be marketing and actively looking for properties, and you can use lots of different systems to kind of do that with. I've known some people that build out like there's the postcard thing, they've got robocolors, they're using AI for site selection and actively reaching out to people and doing all these different things. You're going to have to find properties, and lots of times when you're a real estate investor, those properties are off market, they are not on market deals, right? If you're getting a deal on market, and now that's not necessarily true. Like right now, if there's a deal that's on the market, this is
Could
not
be
the
real.
it's a real deal because the real estate cycle sucks right now. So if they're actually listing it, they're in trouble. Like that's basically what's happening because it's a real deal because it just the market is awful. So it's easy to find them now because the because just the what the market is. But when things start to get better again, your best deals are probably going to be off market. So you're going to have to build up your systems to find those off market deals, which is you're finding people before they talk to a realtor. You do that because you market yourself and you brand yourself as a real estate investor in whatever areas you're trying to find them in. Like you're again the investor groups, you're talking to people that own real estate, you're doing all of those things. Now, on the marketing and branding side, there's a lot of automations out there already. that you can use. You should have a CRM. You should be building up your investor database. You should be looking at your looking at how you want to find your deals through your marketing engines and the lists of homeowners and all these other different things. If you're using Reonomy or PropStream or whatever the hell it is you're using to find these deals, and how you're doing your site selection, there's just a ton out there. But that's what it takes to be a real estate investor. Like if you want to buy one property a year and that's all you want to do, you could probably do that, just doing the traditional methods. But if you want to scale and you want to build where you're knocking down several units a year, you're either buying and holding or flipping or doing land deals or diversifying asset classes, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to have to kind of treat it like a business. And there's just a lot of technology that can help you. But yes, you have to have your systems in place on deal location, obviously, underwriting those deals. And then also, your financing setup and your back office engines and all these other different things that help you do that. I know that's a lot of Najee. I
No,
probably
no,
just confused
but
you.
it's right, and like I said, I'll slow it back down again. Like so, when you're talking about scaling, you need to build a formula or a system one to for deals, right? It starts with that, right? Like, but you got to have a formula system for deals. You have to have a formula system for financing and acquiring those deals, right? Like those are kind of your keys. And then, if you want to get complicated, if you got enough doors, you kind of need to have a system for management, right? Like property
Right.
management. You got to have some. And again, when we say system, we're talking about a strategy or a plan, right? It don't have to, there's some tried and true stuff out there, or you can figure it out yourself. I mean, now the key though is also having a goal in mind. Like that's really where you want to start. What is the strategy? What's the goal? How many are we trying to acquire? You trying to acquire one a year or 10 a year, right? Like that, or 100 a year, whatever that it looks like, right? You do need to have a plan, because with a plan and a strategy, you can build out a system that works for that plan.
Yeah,
Right.
and I would say everybody has this, they're missing, if they're not working on what their plan is or what their technologies or what their systems are right now, they're missing the golden moment. Right now, there's no transactions happening, y'all. Like
People
it's
gotta
like nothing.
sell. People will always have to
I
sell.
know. Exactly. And so, but you had this, you're not, I remember 2020, remember 2021 where it was like deal fatigue. Like you were evaluating so many things and you had to move so fast because somebody else was going to jump on it, right? So you were having to track through these things. It will get back to there, but right now it's slow. So this is a great time to kind of tinker and build out systems and do different things. I mean, if you want to be a real estate investor, this is your time to like
Or
figure
Amy,
out your stuff.
Amy, I'd say it the other way, right? Because it's all about like when people say the market sucks, I always say it sucks for who.
Exactly. Exactly. That's
So
true.
I would argue and say this is a great time to be alive. Like never
Yeah.
in history have we had so much technology, so much know-how, people willing to share, people willing to pour into communities, people building different communities to show you things that hell no, they would not teach you in school. And they were reluctant to talk about it 10, 15 years ago if you weren't in the right circles. So if now there's ever been a time to get on it, this is the time. Because you want to know why? We have people who have inventory that they can't get rid of. Every day, there is countless situations going on. Somebody dies. Somebody needs to change jobs. Somebody needs to move. Some There's always something going on, and 9 times out of 10, they're not always able to go through these. What would you say? these uh these regular situations. Sure, it's great if you have a house where you can just hey, give me 1 minute, son. It's great if you have a house where you can just put it on the market, but how long is it gonna sit on the market? If if your cows got to sit on the market for 90 to 120, to 100 and however many days, that's not going to work. You need to have different things that you can go to. If you're trying to acquire a house, yes, now they have forums, they have clubs, you got Facebook Marketplace. There's places where you can actually go and look for these properties because at the end of the day, a problem needs to be solved. So even if you don't have a system in place, this is a great time to start honing in these skills because if you look into 2 years, 3 years, or however long these cycles last, because this is only my first and second one, it's great because now you have the experience, you have the know-how. What's that? What's that? That's that line from Casino. You know, I made my bones when you were still banging cheerleaders. Now it's the time you get to really make your bones in real estate. So get started. Don't be afraid. I know it's scary, but go ahead and do it now because this is a great time.
Well,
And
yeah,
I
that's what
want
I
to.
meant. I mean that because you have the opportunity to really build out systems when you're right, because you're not having to chase deals that are happening so fast and missing out on a lot of deals. Just a lot of transactions aren't happening right now. And so this is a great time for a new investor to get in and really learn because they're not going to be competing with a bunch of other people. There's like not a lot of people out there trying to buy real estate right now. So you can get in and try in all these weirdo situations. This is a great time to invest in real estate. That's what I meant by it.
Yeah, and one thing again, if people want, if somebody's out here like still a little confused on like how you're gonna feel, sometimes it's about opening your eyes and your ears and just paying attention. I'm gonna tell y'all a story that came out yesterday or today. Some of y'all who follow a real estate junkie, y'all probably heard this stat. So, I'm at realtor.com right now, and this is hit like all the real estate news of the day, right? Delistings are surging, meaning like people have listed their property and they pulled it off the market. I hear it's like up 50% in the month of October or something like that, or maybe 40%, and then 45% year to date. Now, why is this an opportunity? Well, that means that the sellers ain't getting what they want, so they just saying bump it, I'm not gonna sell. Okay, true. It also means that there are sellers that had unrealistic expectations, and their realtor likely did not educate them as such. So they pulled the property off the market. And we used to call those, withdrawal listings, right? Like back in the day, like that was a whole strategy: terminated listings and withdrawal lists. Right? Y'all remember that, Ellison Amy? That was a whole strategy. That strategy is likely coming back because of these type of stats. You can pull a list. Well, I thought I need PropStream. I thought I need all these tools. The MLS is still a very, very strong tool. That's still the master database for things. And again, hook up with your realtor homegirl. Both of y'all trying to become real estate investors. She's a realtor. You got a couple dollars or whatever. Hey, can I borrow your thing? Let's look at all the withdrawn and terminated listings. Okay, let's pull a whole list of that, and that's where you hit them with your marketing. You go cold call those guys. Don't go cold call the person that never wanted to sell their stuff. Cold call the person that was trying to sell their stuff and maybe they have unrealistic expectations. And guess what? How do we know they have unrealistic expectations? They just proved it by withdrawing their listing. They just learned that it didn't sell, right? That's a place where you can come in and say, hey, I'm willing to offer you, can you take it at this price? Well, that's not what I really wanted, blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, but the market showed you that's not what's happening right now. And that's where that conversation can occur. There are deals all over the place. And, as Amy said, hey, this market's a little, well, let's call it space slow, right? It's a not, most people will say that this is not a good real estate market. But if you got some dollars in your pocket and you got a stable income situation and you got money to spend, so to speak, this should absolutely be a good situation for you, right? This is what we want. We're not in the game of buying high and selling high. We're not in the game of buying high and renting high, right? We're in the game of buying low and renting high, buying low. We're in the game of buying low and refinancing high. We're in the game of buying low and selling high. That's the game that we're in. And so what if the market is still going down? Amy got started in '08. I got started in '08, '09, right? And when you got started, Amy, when I got started, Amy, the world was on fire. No, everybody said real estate was the worst, right?
Oh yeah. No, it's like
Amy,
when
you're
I started.
crazy. Why are you doing this?
Why you do? Yeah, everybody said. I mean, what are you doing that for? It's all gonna fall apart. The world's going to end. I mean, gosh, can you remember when George Bush was like, "Oh my God, we have to do something." Like he was freaking out, and because he knew that the world was about to collapse, right? And they had to do something, and that's kind of the time we were in. It was crazy. It was
Yeah,
absolutely
and you know what?
crazy.
Keeping it real, it looked bad for a while, right?
It did.
I
It
mean,
did. Like
we
we were investing, you and I started investing, and everybody thought we were
every
absolutely
one of my
crazy.
friends thought I was
Like,
completely insane.
yeah. Is it like there's not that's gonna be worth like $2. And I'm like, first of all, it ain't gonna be worth $2. I was buying houses, y'all. I bought my first investment property, a house. It was 1,800 square feet, and I bought it for
Come
thirty-three
on,
thousand
that and I mean,
dollars.
and people think when I tell these stories, people think I'm completely lying or that because
House.
I do not. I sold it. I do not. I do not. Oh,
Where did you sell it, and
I
how much
made
did you sell it for? Like,
I did. I ended up, I was trying to rent it, but I made, because I was a general contractor at the time, I made it too nice. It was too nice for the area. I totally learned my lesson. Like you got to know your comps,
wait, so
like
you
don't, I was
Amy,
putting granite countertops in there and stuff.
Amy, I always joke. I tell people that contractors are the worst investors
We
initially.
are. We do stupid ass stuff, man. Like I had to like train myself not to make it too nice. Like we would overspend and we put granite countertops in there. There's like, and the people like they didn't want to rent it because it's too nice.
Because
It's like if we're gonna break
psychologically they
something,
think they're getting a bad deal because it kind of costs too much,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, exactly.
look,
Yeah. No, but it was interesting. So we did. We made I think actually I think we sold it, but we actually broke even. Like overspent on that house and we did all, and then we learned our lessons. And then I went and bought like I think it was 2009. I bought homes 50, 46, 52, 54. I
I
think
didn't
at the
buy
most,
anything under over 60
yeah.
from
y-
15 on from 2008 to 15. I didn't
Yeah,
buy anything
no.
under over 60 grand.
Yeah, yeah, it was all right in there. And and these were in Austin, and just bought them all over in Round Rock and Pflugerville and kind of all over the place. And then by 14, like 13 and 14, they kind of started going back up. But it took us a little while to get out of that recession. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
and
bad.
that was Austin because Austin was booming. Me being in Houston, I would say I was getting cheap stuff all the way through 15.
Oh, were you? Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean Houston's a
yeah,
little bit not wasn't as strong as Austin. It didn't bounce back as fast.
yeah.
But I can tell you, the cool thing is about that time, and I don't know if we'll get back to that level. But I do think, like, yeah, look, the contagion is spreading. I call it contagion. I mean that's what when the economy starts going bad, it gets contagious. People don't quite
Yeah,
understand that, right? When you
yeah.
hurt one sector, that affects another sector. People for some reason, in America, we kind of forget that the economy is not interconnected, right? Like every aspect. I don't, we just don't
Yeah.
have enough people that took Econ 101 around here. but
That's funny. Yeah, no, it's
but
very true.
it's real though, right? And it's not totally bad yet, but the point is like we've got an imbalance right now. These sellers still have unrealistic expectations. There's gonna be more properties selling. There's not enough, whenever you have more sellers than buyers, that's called a buyer's market. If
Mm-hmm.
you are a buyer, that means that's good for you. Simple. And so, sometimes you're trying to be a buyer and then your realtor and everything, your lender is telling you that the market sucks. I can tell you right now, your lender absolutely thinks the market sucks. right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the brokest people in real estate right now is absolutely the lenders. I hate to say it, and it sucks, right? And I have a lot of lending friends, and they're having to take other jobs and do other things right now. And I feel bad for them or whatever. But I also have to remember, like for me, I'm in the game as a buyer, right? I'm here to buy and acquire property and acquire assets and things of that nature. And right now, like you said, I mean, things are slow. Um, I'm seeing some properties hit the market that would have flew off the shelf a year and a half ago, and it's sitting. And that's where you can get in, underwrite. For if you just got into the room, I think one of the biggest gems that Amy dropped was just about getting in with a crew, getting in with a group, and underwriting. Doing a lot of underwriting, y'all. Like look at deals, do a lot of underwriting. So that's what gets your practice up. Joe mentioned earlier, how do I know if this is good or bad? Underwriting, lots of it. What are the terms of the loan? Go play in the mortgage calculator, guys. I give out free mortgage I give you all the tools. I give you the underwriting calculators, the mortgage calculators, all that. Well, why do I do that? Well, because I need you to see the difference between a 5% mortgage and an 8% mortgage. It's a big difference in your payment. See how the payment changes. Oh, I don't want that. Okay. That's how you know, right? That's how we know if we're getting good terms or not. What up, Ellis? Come on in here.
Yeah, I was waiting on Ellis to jump in because I know that was.
There is so much financial education specifically to real estate that I am so surprised a lot of so-called experienced people don't have. And what I mean by that is that when times are good, you look like a genius. And I was guilty of that too. I was buying stuff and everything looked like, I was a genius. It was gold. And if you made a mistake in underwriting, the market would cover it up because you had inflation, right? It's like, you had appreciation and all that stuff. And you're like, oh my God, I'm a genius. I bought it for this. I sold it for that. I must be, the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then when the market turns or the cycles turn, it's going to reveal those weaknesses of you don't understand the foundations of math. So I always tell people that I have, three phases of my real estate career. One where I didn't know what I was doing. I was a complete idiot. But the worst part of my career is when I thought I knew everything, but I was really still an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had the market cover up all my careless, practices and mistakes. And then hopefully in this third phase of my career, I've got it figured out where I actually have a very sound foundation of analysis, and I understand the business and how everything plays together with real estate. But I try to tell people, don't be as stubborn as I was. Try to get to where I am now with, instead of going through all the pain, really learn the fundamentals early. It's like, using a sports analogy, you have all these, hot shot college players, and then when they get to the pros, they're nothing because it gets revealed their flaws. They don't have the sound foundation to deal with a game that is so much faster, right? It's just a different speed when you get to the pros, whether it's, basketball or football or whatever sport. Yeah, you may have been the stud in your high school or the college you went to, but unless you have those fundamentals, you have the best of the best there, right? So when markets turn, you better have the fundamentals or else you're not going to make it through these cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to add, like, you're gonna like, hopefully everybody scales, and that's great. You just want to there's a frenzy that can happen when you start to scale,
It can get
and
dangerous.
people can get it can get very dangerous. And once you learn how to do this game, you can get over your skis and you can go buy a crap ton of property, be over levered, and get yourself into a lot of trouble. I know this one sponsor that was, syndicating deals left and right. He just foreclosed, or he just got foreclosed on. Five of his properties got foreclosed on. He defaulted on five mortgages.
There's a lot of that going on in the
Yeah.
last couple of years. Scaling too early. And that's where, look, this is the one part Eugene mentioned a whole lot of great things about social media and technology and all of those things. And he was right. One of the bad things about social media in the age of investing is the FOMO.
Yep.
That will get your ass in trouble.
Yep.
I'm gonna reiterate something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with buying one property a year or even every 2 years. Nothing wrong with that. Because I can tell you right now, in 2 or 3, 4, 5 years of just literally buying one property a year, you'll have more property in real estate than 90% of Americans,
For
right?
sure.
And that don't sound sexy, right? It doesn't. We can't come on social media bragging, blah, 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 blah. But if you get up to 4 or 5 rentals, I mean, okay, that's not some crazy number that you're seeing on Instagram, but I'm gonna reiterate something. That is 4 or 5 rentals more than the average person. And that's just reality.
Let me jump into
Yeah.
this real quick. Okay, so now keep in mind, I told you I bought my first property for 88,000, 84,000. My bad. I got a $4,000 credit. That first property, after we got done, we had the ARV of 200,000. Now, here's the thing: even if you had to do one of those a year, or if you had to do two of those a year, that means in 5 years you would still be a millionaire. If you did two of those in 2.5 years, 3 years, you would still be a millionaire. So the thing is, you just don't want to waste no time, but you don't want to rush the process neither. Because the thing is, that's where you lose your ass at, especially if you knew. Because there's a lot of things that you don't know. It's a lot of things that I did not know. Luckily, I had friends in very high places. I could call a Najee. I still got a Najee's number right now. I could call a Najee. I could call Los. I could call RB. I could DM people. I had a full-on support system. I had
You
community.
that's not past tense. You still got it, bro.
Yeah, I got community that I could tap in with. Hey, I'm looking to do woo 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 wop the bam. I had a Najee walk me through a full-fledged Section 8 thing, and guess what? My first rental that went to a Section 8, and that person is still there now. This was 20. Boy, stop screaming in my house. My bad. This was in 2023. That person is still there. I just had a Section 8 inspection today. We about to go to 1,900 a month. We
Come on,
started out. We
1900. Come on,
started out at
19.
We started out at 15. No, yeah, we started out at 1,500 a month. We about to go to 1,900 a month,
Uh,
and that cash flow was already at 500 because of the people that I talk to. Hey, look, I know what social media is gonna tell you, and $300 in cash flow is cool for some, but it's not gonna be good for you because what if something break down? What if you gotta replace something? Then you just lost your cash flow for the whole year. So then I knew, hey, we not even looking at deals that's gonna produce under $500 a month. I knew that going in because of the community that I was in. So we continue to build on that narrative because how you start, that's kind of how you want to finish. So now I know not to even look at deals unless we're gonna be cash flowing at least 500 a month, hands
and,
down.
man, stop right there, right quick,
And
because I think that's huge. Because you got people out here telling people, well, just get into real estate and you can make $200 a month. But you hit a triple or a double, whatever we want to call it, but you ain't hit no single, right? You hit a nice little deal on your first one. And to your point, that's your basis now. You not about to look at anything that's not gonna do what that one just did. You can't. And that's huge, right? Some people teach, well, it's okay to fall on your face because at least you're moving forward. No, I'm not with that. And I'm not with that. And I know some people differ with me on that or whatever, but I'm not with that, especially in this economy. We gotta hit, I ain't saying you gotta hit a home run on your first deal, but you need to hit a good one on your first deal. I'm a big fan of that because one, that's gonna help your mental game, right? It's gonna be tough. Your first deal is gonna be hard. It's gonna go through some things, and it's important for you to get a payoff, right? You need a good payoff on your first deal. That's how you're gonna keep going. But specifically, I do want to offer up to, I think, okay, I think Janetta just said she joined. But for anybody, look, this is a free community. Up top, there is some upcharges if you want upcharge classes, but you ain't got to. But what is free in there is I do have a free class. It's really good to help you determine your how do I get started. That's what that class is really about. It's about, one, I break down early all of the benefits of real estate, then we break down all of the ways to kind of get into real estate, then we just talk about those bases of what you need, getting your weight up, getting your financing, getting how to find deals or whatever. It's about an hour long, so it's pretty comprehensive. But the goal of that class is to educate you on the ways to get started in real estate and to help you find your journey within real estate. There's 1,000 ways to make money in real estate. I promise you. There are 1,000 ways to make money in real estate. But go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to offer, I'm going to have to go, but if you're going to scale your portfolio, Ellis put it in the chat, like keep your living expenses low. It's very true. Treat your real estate income like a business and don't party with the money. Don't do that to yourself because you're not going to be able to scale. If your cost of living goes up every home you buy,
You you ain't doing nothing.
you
You're
ain't
not
doing
doing nothing.
crap, man. So what I ended up doing over time was every home we bought, like obviously you have to pay the home's expenses, right? And then you're gonna have this profit. You don't
You
touch
bank
it.
it.
It
You
sits
bank
in an
it.
account. You bank it. You bank it. So you have to make a living outside of your rental property and you bank all that money because what happens is the more money you have sitting there, the higher deals you can do, like your net worth is growing, you can get into commercial deals, you can do things because your liquidity is growing. You have to grow your liquidity. So when you understand the financing game, growing your liquidity along with your net worth allows you to get into bigger deals. So don't miss out on that, and don't party with the money, man.
The
Like,
real real estate investors that been around for a long time, they're not running around in Ferraris and shit, y'all. Like, I mean, they're not. They're just not. I mean, we all
Say that
the
again for the people in the back, bro, because they don't
yeah.
mhm.
believe you. They think you supposed to pull up in the Urus
Yeah,
and you
that's
supposed
not
to,
that's the nature
yeah.
of being a real estate investor is really the nature of being somebody who's really good at personal finance, right? And we're all really like the ones that are serious, that are for real, and you know that they're real. They're very good at personal finance. They've got their house in order. Because I'm gonna tell you a cold hard truth. When you're becoming a landlord and you're renting out property, you're kind of running your household and kind of running somebody else's household a little bit too, right? Like you become a personal financial guru for your tenants a little bit. And it's important for you to understand that. I'll tell you again, many of y'all, I've seen y'all over the years, y'all kind of know my story. I just reiterate a simple truth of mine, right? I am still sitting in the very first home I ever bought right now. I bought this house in 2008, 1 month after Lehman Brothers crash, Amy. I will never forget it because that's when I bought it. 1 month after Lehman Brothers crash. And all my people thought I was crazy. And I bought this on the foreclosure. And I am still sitting in this house today. Now, I'm on my second renovation, massive renovation on this house, right? But I can tell you, and yes, my mortgage has gone up in the 18, 19 years I've been in this house, or however long that's been. My mortgage has gone up. You know how much has gone up? $200, $215.
Man, say that again, because I bet you somebody that's renting right now, they dealing with 2% to 4%
And,
rent
and,
increases every
and
single year.
I'm gonna be very, very transparent. My original mortgage was like in the $1,100 range, and right now I'm paying like 1340. And this is not a small house. It's a 3,000 square foot house, a 4 bedroom, 2 bath in a decent neighborhood in Houston. We've been happy here. We good here. That's not, and well, not you supposed to be this big time millionaire, whatever. Look, I like my money where it belongs in the damn bank account, not out the bank account. Say that again for my money belongs in assets, bank accounts, 401ks, stocks. That's where my money belongs. It does not belong in somebody else's pocket. I don't like my money belonging to payments, right? That's not hot to me. Now that's hot to you. This ain't it, right? But for me, I like living life stress free. I like being able to travel when I want to. I like being able to pay for cool things for my kids. People who follow me on social media, I'm always dropping on my kids and all that kind of stuff or whatever. I like being able to pay for private tutors and private this and private that, and they want to go on trips. I mean, my son just told me that he might go play in his band in New York. Like Lily told me this yesterday. I said, "Man, when you gonna tell me this?" So you telling me you got a New York trip out the blue in 2 months? And guess what? We can take him, and it's cool. It ain't gonna be the whole stress. That's what I'm in this game for, right? Y'all can say the Ferraris for the other guy or whatnot, but you show me a real estate investor that's running around with 10 cars or something. I'm gonna show you a guy that's either one not making this money in real estate or two not really real estate investor, right? Like it's just not real. Yeah, I don't think because again the nature of being a real estate investor is the nature of understanding how to navigate money, right? It's understanding how to juggle money, right? When we talk about scaling, we're talking about money management, right? That's what we're talking about. Managing money. That's what scaling is. You got money coming in, money coming out. And that's part of scaling. So we don't need to rush that, right? I know people that's making 100 grand a month and spending 105. Well, they're losing 5 grand. That ain't working. That's not it, right? So we want to. So it's okay to when scaling is about you scale when you're ready, right? How do you know you're ready? Well, because I've got this mastered, I got this down, and you know, for me when I talked about when I got into multifamily, it's because I was ready. I knew that I could not buy the amount of deals that I wanted to buy and move faster. But I was ready. I had systems in place. I had teams in place. And I really wasn't even, and some of that I had to shoot my shot. And some of that, I had to build and adjust my teams or whatever. But I had things in place. I knew how to rehab very well. I had lenders that could get me into that door, and I had to figure some things out. But that's the goal, right? And that's what we're offering up in the academy. Like I said, you can come in, join, check out that free class. This is also a safe place for you to build your accountability partners, build those teams. I may not be on your team. You can join the academy and you may not hook up with or not. That's not the goal. The goal is for us to build a network and offer some education along the way. That's kind of why we do these conversations. Again, I'm gonna put up a new poll for next week. We'll see what we want to talk about next week as well. This is the real estate rush hour. I will post the replays on YouTube and in the academy. What's up, Eugene? Come on in, bro.
And bonus depreciation. Because
Okay.
I ain't even gonna lie. This is the thing. Here it is. You gotta look at what we at with 2025. And everybody's complaining about, you know what I'm saying, the new administration, everything that's going on with that. But now here it is, we're finna go into 2026. That means taxes is due. And now we're gonna see where the rubber really meets the road. And bonus depreciation, because if you've been buying real estate, if you really do this and you really about this life, then this is really where you're going to see where the rubber meets the road at. This bonus, 100% bonus depreciation, man, come on now. You can't tell me that ain't a gift right there. That's a
It
gift.
it is a gift.
Do you know how to use
Uh,
it though?
but you
It's a
got to
gift.
know how to use it
Yeah, that's it.
because I'm gonna tell you if Eugene you've obviously heard about bonus depreciation. I'm gonna tell you another word that goes right along with bonus depreciation. You want to know this other word? Depreciation recapture. You heard of that word? You know that
Yeah,
word?
no, that's a fact. That's a fact.
So just be careful. And I'm a fan of bonus depreciation, 100%. But make sure you know the word depreciation recapture as well, because that one can get you. That's got a couple of our friends.
You know me, man. I'm a cheap ass anyway. I ain't spending no money. If we not bringing in no money, we not spending no money, regardless of what it look like. I ain't
But it's
gotta
about when
be.
you sell the
I ain't gotta
property.
be
When you
flashy.
sell the property, you get an ugly bill that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, so that's the you know we and you know what, Eugene, I'm gonna put that up in the community. We're gonna put that in the poll, and I like the conversation because it is one of the benefits. And people who know me know I've been very critical of this administration for their economic policies. Bonus depreciation is something that I have personally benefited from in a major way. I haven't had a tax liability in a while, and it's mainly because of bonus depreciation. So I'm gonna be very transparent about that. And so I do think bonus depreciation is, one of the reasons, one a good thing. I don't think it's a reason to invest in a property or real estate in general, but it isn't a benefit, right? It can be an advantageous benefit. So we'll definitely add that to the cookie jar. However, for me, if anybody know me, I'm gonna tell you the positives and the negatives, right? Anybody telling you that one thing is all gravy, that likely means they don't know the whole story, right? And typically, bonus depreciation can be huge, but if you're planning to flip a property in 3 or 4 years, then using bonus depreciation may not be the smartest thing because you're probably going to end up with a big tax bill that you wasn't expecting, right? Could be a big problem for you. So just putting that out there. But it's really really cool. It is a cool tool for sure. So but anyway, hey guys, if y'all want, if you do want to continue the conversation, or at least maybe not in this format, but at least just kind of come kick it with us. We're kicking it with, in the Wealth Masterminds Academy. That's what we're doing. It's just a simple join, ask questions, check out some information. I do like to use this as a resource, and I invite people to kind of, hey, hit me with a DM, say, hey, Onaje, I want to talk about this, or bring some people on to talk about that. That's kind of the point of this community. It's a way for us to kind of have these conversations. And I'm gonna be frank with you guys. Certain conversations, like I do for office hours, I'm not saying certain stuff publicly, y'all. I don't. There's certain things I do not talk about on public forums that I don't own. That includes Clubhouse, that includes Instagram and YouTube. I'm not saying certain stuff like that, because again, you just never know in the times that we living in, right? I'm just being 100 with y'all. I'm not saying certain things publicly anymore. And that's just kind of how the game is. I'm not gatekeeping. I'm offering for free to come join us, but I can't be giving out certain stuff like that because you just never know who might have malicious intent. But with that being said, we'll be back next week, every week, 6 p.m. The real estate rush hour is supposed to be an hour. I did a little bit longer just so some of my friends that I see you guys down there that have been hanging around for a while. It's been good to kind of see y'all and just hey, I'm coming back around. Steven, I see you. Roz, I see you. Dwayne, Top Dog. I know Miss Sarita, I see you. We gonna hook up with that painting. I ain't forgot about you. So, Larry, I see you. Some of y'all we've been hanging around for a while. So anyway, with that being said, come check us out. Again, Christmas Day membership. I just changed some membership structure. VI, if you were premium before, now you're VIP. Still offering that, and I'm offering a gang of classes for $29.99 a month on a premium deal. If you ever, Eugene can attest. One thing about my classes is I might be long winded, but they are packed with information. I can talk, but they are packed with information. That's what we try to do. We pack it in with information. Ain't no gatekeeping on my side. Y'all know me. If you got a question, if I don't know it, I'll tell you I know it. I'll find somebody that will. Otherwise, I don't mind answering anything. Just know that it ain't all hype. It's just reality. So get out there, hustle. If you're a new member and want to know like the first things that y'all really want to do is, again, take the free class, understand your personal financial statement. That's huge. Know where you're starting from, how much money you got to work with. Underwriting deals, guys. I got the free calculator out there, the deal underwriter tool. That's big. You got to know how to underwrite. You got to know how debt work, right? And again, financing is just financing. It doesn't matter the fancy word in the front. Those are just the terms that they're offering. Okay. And so what you need to understand is, how does money work? What's the difference between a 4% interest rate and a 7% interest rate in payments, right? What are the components of the payments? The taxes, the insurance, the HOAs. That's what matters. Is this a balloon payment? Is this a 30-year mortgage, a 15-year mortgage? Oh, is it 30-year with interest only? These are the terminologies that matter. How long is the interest only period? That is the terminology that matters, right? Or if we paying interest only, or we paying 0% interest, or do we have the delayed payment like Ellis is pulling off? That's a hella play right there. That's some hella game. I ain't gotta make a payment for the first 6 months until I get this thing rented out. That's that's the difference between staying in the game because of financing. That's smart financing that leads to success, because there's a lot of bad financing out there that can lead to your failure. So anyway, with that being said, hey, come catch me in the community. I'm gonna drop off, give me something to eat. If you want to join in and say hello, make sure you come in and say hello and introduce yourself. Let us know what you're trying to do for 2026. That's super important, because that'll let me know how we can help you get to your goals. We'll see y'all next time on the Real Estate Rush Hour. I left the room, forgot to shut it down. What was I doing? In room.